Mortgage interest rates just fell to a 3-year low. We had no idea that interest rates were going to stay this elevated for this extended amount of time, putting downward pressure on residential real estate purchases and more so on the commercial real estate sector. If you don't know this about commercial real estate and how interest rates affect residential real estate, listen up and pay attention. Otherwise, you could find yourself catastrophically losing on both residential and commercial real estate. Now, because interest rates just went down to 6.26%, the trade rate just went to 4.25%, and mortgage rates themselves have come down to 6.13%. What does that mean for the overall real estate market as an entirety? And how does this really affect the market? Does it make an impact? Is it really going to help move the needle? And if so, what does that needle mover look like to be able to take advantage of purchases and know exactly where profits lie? Let's go over all of that. CBS just stated that there's a 3-year low in interest rates. And in fact, when we look at this, they've dropped to an average of 6.13%. 6.13%. Now, one of the big things right now is I want to talk to you about residential real estate, because residential real estate really is simple. And I want to get into the more in depth on commercial real estate, specifically multifamily, because interest rates and how it affects commercial real estate and what's happened over the last 3 years has been extremely catastrophic to the overall commercial real estate market, including multifamily. For most people that don't really understand, anything over 4 units of multifamily is no longer residential real estate. In spite of it being a residential product, it is commercial real estate. And the way banks look at commercial real estate is exclusively on the underwriting and the cash production of that real estate, meaning that if a commercial real estate property doesn't have any income coming in, it's completely vacant, it is worthless to the bank. The bank doesn't want it. It's not cash producing. It doesn't pay debts. It doesn't pay interest rates. It's worthless to a bank. It's a lot harder to obtain a loan. And that's why empty buildings usually get sold through owner finance contracts, because banks don't want them. Until they're stabilized, banks don't want them. And what stabilization means is that it has income coming in, and that income is tangible. And so let's talk about residential real estate really quick, and then we'll get into the contrary of what's happening in the commercial real estate sector with interest rates and where we ultimately need and are looking for interest rates to stabilize for an overall betterment of both the residential and commercial sector. Now, if we have 6.13%, and let's say we just take the average home of $420,000 on the resale price, okay? Now, if we take a 6.13% interest rate today, we take $420,000 home, and we take a times 0.0613. Your interest rate is $25,746. We divide that by 12, and your monthly payment is going to be $2,145 per month, interest only, okay? This is per month. Now, if we go down to just a simple 5% interest rate, okay, if we take this down to just 5%, this is what it looks like. You take that same $420,000 mortgage times 0.05, that looks like $21,000 a year divided by 12. That takes your payment down to $1,750 per month, okay? Now, that's equivalent to, what is that, $400 difference? Yeah, $400 difference, okay? So that's a deficit of $400 per month, okay? That's groceries for a family, ladies and gentlemen. That's a big difference right there. Now, what we recommend that people do in the residential market, if you're going to have a long-term stabilized loan, like if you're going to do this as the BRRRR strategy, you're going to buy this and you're going to fix it up, you're going to rent it, and you're going to keep it long-term, and you're going to rent it long-term, then buy down your interest rate. Now, the cost of money is different every single day. On average, the number that I use is 1% of the entire mortgage cost to 1% drop in interest rate. Now, that's not always the case. In fact, sometimes money trades it over that, and it does cost a little bit more. So if you want to underwrite it like 1.25% or even 1.5% per percentage of interest that you bring it down, you're going to come in and say, okay, I have $420,000. If I take 1.5% of that, it's going to cost me about $420,000. So it's going to cost me about $6,000 to drop this interest rate down to about 5.13%, maybe about $8,000 to get it down to 5%. Now, you take an $8,000 purchase, take $8,000 divided by $400, That's 20 months. So if you plan on keeping the property for in excess of 20 months, anything in excess of 20 months is profitability. And so I tell people, you have to do it based on the decisions you make as far as your hold time. If you don't plan on holding the property for an extended amount of time, just pay the 6.13%. That's a low interest rate for an investment loan that you're going to turn. So for the sake of example, if you're fix and flipping, which don't be fix and flipping, ladies and gentlemen, buy land, build houses. If profitability lied in fix and flipping, we'd be putting the millions of dollars that we put in to our single family new construction ground up into fix and flips. There's no money in fix and flips. They're too high risk. Don't do it. But if you're still gullible enough to do it and you feel like that's your business, do it. Go and have fun doing it. Just 6.13%, even if you get an investment loan of anything sub 9%, you're at a good place. Just buy it, build it, renovate it, sell it, take the small interest variance and get rid of it. But ladies and gentlemen, what you have to understand is that the cost of debt is always the single most important variable on a long-term stabilized asset, because that is going to ultimately give you the bandwidth to either rent or profit or not profit and lose. Because for an investor, $400 a month is a super high number to lose on a single family home, because that might be your entire profitability, is that $400. Because the rents, you might not be able to obtain that $2,145 or more than that. And so if you can't get more than $2,400 a month or $2,200 a month, especially after you pay the actual principal on the loan, and most of you will have mortgage insurance on your house as well. So by the time you pay mortgage insurance, the actual loan itself and the interest, you're going to be someplace right around that $2,500, $2,600 mark. And if you can't retain rents that high, you lose. Now, that $400 could be the difference between profitability and catastrophic loss. So make sure that you know how many months you actually have to hold that property. 20 in this scenario right here, in this simple theoretical example, is what you have to hold it to be able to get back the buy down from 5% of an $8,000 buy down. Okay? Now, that is residential. Now, residential is super simple. The dividend on that will give you, your profit variance will be based on your buy down and based on the cost of money day in, day out. Just talk with one of your mortgage lenders to ask them when a good day is to lock in your mortgage rate. Like the day the mortgage rates went down, that would have been a good day to buy down your rate. Now, as we move through 2025, we're expecting 2 more interest rate reductions. Now, when the federal funds rate reduces, I need you to understand that that's not the cost of interest or mortgage rates for us. It's what the federal funds rate is trading on what we pay the Federal Reserve, the central banks, for the money they print and lend to our federal government, which, P.S., by the way, is unconstitutional. But in 1912, they decided to create the Federal Reserve, which is actually not a federal agency. It's a non-federal agency that's ran by our central banks. The central banks are the largest banks in the world, guys. Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Chase, J.P. Morgan. They are the central banks. They are the ones that set the price of what the money is going to be. So Jerome Powell actually works with them, not the feds. And so understand, ladies and gentlemen, that that is the rate that we're paying back and the cost of our money for being printed from the Federal Reserve. So the more expensive the money costs us to pay back the Federal Reserve, the more it's going to cost the end user. And you have to understand what the true variance is and where that comes from in the printing of money and how it's lent. Because if you don't understand how money is lent, you'll never be able to get money to be able to finance your assets, and that's the biggest problem most people have. Now, let's talk about commercial real estate, because commercial real estate and the way money works in commercial real estate is super important because it puts downward pressure on the overall market. I don't have time for a PhD level underwriting right now, but I'm going to go through the basics and share with you just a simple theoretical example of how interest rates affect commercial real estate and why commercial real estate has got catastrophically beaten up over the last 3 years. Now, one thing is that cap rates have to run at minimum, they have to run in alignment with interest rates, okay? Now, what that means, I'm going to take this rate right here. Now, that rate back in 2021 was sitting at about 3%, guys. 2020, 2021, right, equals about 3%. Okay, that's our interest rate. Now, if cap rates, which is your rate of return on your money, if you go in and you pay cash for an asset, for a building, for an apartment complex, a retail center, an office building, the rate of return that you make on your money after you pay all expenses, property taxes, insurance, laundry service, floors being cleaned, parking lots being paved, striped, blown, lawns being mowed, vacancies, all of the expenses that you have on a property, once all of those have been taken into account, you have what's called a net operating income. That net operating income is divided by a cap rate, which gives you the ultimate overall value of your asset. So when we go in, that cap rate is your overall rate of return after all expenses are paid. So if you spent $1 million on a building or an apartment complex and you say it's at a 3% cap rate so it can cover the debt of that asset, your cap rate is 3%. It's sold as a 3%. It was traded at a 3% cap rate. Now, value equals net operating income divided by cap rate. Okay. Now, how does this affect the overall value? When we go in, let's take for sake of example that we have a building, and let's take a small apartment complex, a little 6-unit, and let's say that 6-unit apartment complex, we take 6 units, okay, we multiply that times the national average of $1,750 per month. So we take a 6-unit, $1,750 per month on average rent. 1,750 times 6 is going to be $10,500. Multiply that times 12. Times 12 equals a gross income potential of $126,000. Now, let's assume a 95% occupancy. There's going to be vacancies in this because you're going to have revolution of tenants. You're going to have walls to paint, flooring to fix, and little nominal items that you have to take care of. And there's going to be doors that are empty for a month or two. So if we take on average, nationwide average, 95%, we take $126,000 times 95% occupancy. Okay, so times 0.95, that gives us a gross operating income of $119,700 per month. Now, if we assume on a 6-unit apartment complex, about 25% of your overall expenses are going to go to property taxes, insurance, and maintenance on that property. And so what you have left is going to be your net operating income. So if we assume a 75% of our total gross operating income to be what we have as our net, we have a 25% expense on this property. That's just the national average. Now, times 0.25, that's going to be expenses equivalent to 29,000, let's call it 30,000. It's close enough. Let's call it $30,000. 30K. Okay? So we take that 30K, we subtract it from the $119,700. That means our NOI is going to be equivalent to $89,775. Now, when we do this and we divide this by a 3% cap rate from 2001, that's going to give us an overall value. So divided by 0.03, that's going to give us an overall value of $2.9 million, $2.9 million value. Okay, that's our value of our asset in 2021. Today, interest rates are at 6.13%. Okay, so if we divide this same number, and 89,775, we divide that by 6.13%. We take 89,775 divided by 0.0613. Our overall value is $1.46 million, $1.46 million. It is less than half of what we had in 2021 based on the overall cap rate. Why is it so important that interest rates go down and more so mortgage rates? So that our debt coverage ratio, ladies and gentlemen, the amount of money it takes us to cover the debt on that property, that is the rate that has to go down, our debt coverage ratio. We have to be able to cover the debt on this asset because that's what banks are looking for on commercial asset. This is a commercial asset right here, okay? This 6-unit is over 4 units. That's a commercial asset. We look at this 6.13%. We have to go in. If we just brought this down to 5%, ladies and gentlemen, we brought this down to 5%. We take that same 89,775 divided by 0.05. That would give us an overall value of $1.8 million. And even at 5%, we're not at 2.9, but the valuation goes up $400,000 just with a reduction of just over 1% on our cap rate. Now, we're going to have to work on the overall rent rates of our properties today more so than ever to be able to stabilize them. So when we sit back and we talk about the feds trying to control inflation, everything that they're doing today is the contrary to controlling inflation, because it's not the overall price of the apartment complex, it's not the overall price of the home that makes it expensive to be able to own that home. It is the debt coverage that makes it expensive. So it's super important that mortgage rates go down, and more so important that interest rates go down so the cost of money goes down. Now, the bond market has to soften, meaning people have to pull their money from the bond market and put it into homes. If they don't pull it from the bond market and pull into homes, mortgage rates, in spite of interest rates going down, mortgage rates will rise. And so extremely careful to pay attention to both the volatility of not just interest rates, but mortgage rates themselves, because the bond market also controls mortgage rates. And what most people don't understand is that, yes, the Federal Reserve rate might go down, interest rates might go down, but if mortgage rates go up because the bond market does not soften and people don't start selling off some of their bonds to put it into real estate, mortgage rates actually land up going back up, which is what happened 3 days after the Feds announced that interest rates were the lowest in 3 years. What actually happened, ladies and gentlemen, is that for one day, the lowest mortgage rates in 3 years. Hence, that's when you lock in your rate to buy it down to this 5%, because 2 days later, it inflated. And when that happens, ladies and gentlemen, mortgage rates go up, your cost for debt also goes up. So in spite of interest rates going down, mortgage rates have actually rise over the last few days from the time that you've seen this video. Now, what we're expecting for home builders and for end buyers is that mortgage rate ultimately go down and the bond market starts to soften up a little bit, not paying out the dividends that once were being paid, also putting us in a position where people, hence, would rather go put the money into a single family home. And so can we depict what the future holds? Not today, not with this Federal Reserve, ladies and gentlemen. All we can do is expect that interest rates will get cut 2 more times in lieu of hoping that the bond market softens so that mortgage rates come back down and we have longer than a 1-day reduction of mortgage rates to take advantage of what I just talked about here. Lower payments, higher values, and ultimately better stabilized assets as we move into 2026. Ladies and gentlemen, unless you understand the underwriting game, you can put yourself in a position that debt service itself can make your projects catastrophic. It is super important for you to understand how both residential and commercial real estate is underwritten and how it affects the overall finished value of both assets. And once you can do that, you can compound the money you make and your profits on every single build, every single investment. And for more content just like this to continue educating yourself as an investor, a builder, a developer, or just an overall end user, click and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give us some love and pound that thumbs up button. And ladies and gentlemen, until next time, God bless you and have a great day and go out and compound your success.